So, what's the difference between being interested and being committed? It's your degree of passion. Hello again, everyone. I'm Eli's dad with Project Eli, where we educate, we lead, and we inspire. And speaking of inspire, that brings me to today's subject. Why am I talking about commitment versus being interested? Well, given our present historical context with the impeachment, I couldn't help but think back to a college professor that I had, Dr. George Athan Bilius, who was a tremendous influence on my life because of his unbelievable passion. And I want to share the story with you about Dr. Bilius because I think you'll find it worthwhile. You know, when I first got to college, I went to school in Worcester, Massachusetts at a place called Clark University, which is a small liberal arts privately owned college. And just like any other student going in there, it's like, okay, you don't know what you don't know. So you go to sign up for classes and you're looking at different things, and one of the things I saw was there was this class called The Era of the American Revolution, and Dr. Bilius was the one teaching it. And I didn't do a lot of research on it, to be candid with you. It just, hey, you know what, I'm interested in the American Revolution. I'm going to sign up for that course. Now that particular course was taught Monday, Wednesday, and Friday at 8:30 in the morning. Now, if you know anything about being a college student, most kids don't like to get up for a class that starts at 8:30 in the morning. I wasn't smart enough to know that at the time, but to be candid with you, I'm an early riser, so it really wasn't a big problem for me. I signed up for the course. When I got to the course, it was a very first course I took in school, all right? You know, you sign up for 3 or 4 courses. It was among those 3 or 4 courses that I was taking. I look around the classroom and I see that I'm the youngest puppy in the entire classroom. You want to know how long ago I took that class? Back then, in the classroom, there were people smoking cigarettes in class. First I looked around and I said, they allow you to smoke in here? All right, but back then, you know, you could smoke in a room, and so that's how long ago this class was. It started at 8:30 in the morning, Monday, Wednesday, and Friday, and I was the youngest person there. It was a 200 level course, all right, which means, and I didn't know this when I signed up for it, is that it was a more advanced course. So I'm sitting there, at that particular point in time, I graduated from high school. I was not a very good writer. Not that I'm such a great writer today, but I have made some significant leaps and bounds in that particular venue. But back then, writing was a major, major challenge for me. And so the other students in the class had some major advantages over me. I want to tell you about this class, though. This class changed my life. How did it change my life? You go to college, you know, you have an idea. You know, I had done pretty well on the chemistry board. I thought I was going to take, you know, some science courses and go in that direction. I never ended up taking a single science course while I was in college because of this class. Dr. Bilius was somebody that just when you sat in his classroom and he started the lecture, he had you from the first second you sat down. He was so super interesting. You just had to have the discipline to get up at 8:30 in the morning. This guy was unbelievable. I was so excited about going to his class each and every day. So what made it so exciting? First of all, Worcester, Massachusetts is the home of the American Antiquarian Society. What the heck is the American Antiquarian Society? It is the library that houses all of the original sources from American history. And to go in and use that library, you have to go through and jump through a number of different hoops. They don't just let, some sophomore in high school go in there and start looking at the original sources, because, they could damage so on and so forth. And so they take real good protection of that. Mostly it's used by graduate students and by professors who are writing books. Dr. Bilius was somebody that was writing books. Now, a lot of times when you go to college and you have a professor that's writing books, they take their class and they kind of just mail it in. Their major purpose is, I need to write a book, publish or perish. Well, Dr. Bilius wasn't like that. Dr. Bilius was so passionate. At the time that I was taking his class, he was writing a book about a gentleman named Elbridge Gerry, who you probably have never heard of, but you're familiar with. And let me tell you how and why. First of all, he was a signer of the Declaration of Independence and a governor in the state of Massachusetts, and later on went on to become the vice president in the United States. So you still never heard of Elbridge Gerry. Have you ever heard of the term gerrymandering? That is where politicians move a line so that, if there's more Democrats in this particular sector of the city, we'll move the line over this way so that we can get our candidate elected. That's what gerrymandering is moving a line from one place to another with the purpose of targeting a specific block of voters so that a person can be elected. And that's not a bad definition. I did all right with that. Okay? So you've heard of gerrymandering. It's named after this guy, Elbridge Gerry. I don't know why they don't call it gerrymandering, but they don't. Anyway, he was writing a book. He would go into the library and read from the diary, from written words that Gerry wrote, and he would come into class, and it was kind of like a gossip. And you know how somebody's gossiping and you gotta hear this, gotta hear that. Except he's gossiping about a figure from American history, a prominent figure in American history at the time of the American Revolution. And he's telling us, this guy said this and that guy said that, and then he would say, now my guy Gerry would, and then he would go on and explain, and you felt when you were in that classroom, because of his commitment, because of his passion, like you were right there with him. The class was so interesting. And even though it was like way above my head, it was a class I shouldn't have taken until my junior or senior year, I was in love with this class. Didn't do particularly well, as I recall. I think I got a C+ in the class because my writing was so hideous at that time. But I just loved the class. I mean, it was so interesting to go every single day to hear the stories, And also at that time, it was very interesting because that was the time when Watergate was just starting. The issue known as Watergate. President Nixon, was denying this and denying that, and they had the election while I was taking this class, and it was like one of the biggest landslides, if not the biggest landslide in history. As a matter of fact, I think Nixon won 49 states, and as a matter of fact, there were bumper stickers in Massachusetts. It's in Massachusetts, the only state. They were the only ones that voted for his opponent, who was a guy named George McGovern, who, by the way, his daughter was in one of my classes at Clark and was dating at the time one of my acquaintances, not a real close friend, but was dating one of my acquaintances. So it's kind of interesting, George McGovern running for president, his daughter in one of my classes, not this particular class, but one of my classes. I never got to really know her, Mary McGovern. I never really know her, was introduced to her, whatever. I understand she was just, a regular student like everybody else. But there she is, the daughter of a presidential candidate in one of the classes, one of my buddies dating her. And this story, just like today's stories about impeachment and the tragedy that happened at the U.S. Capitol, I mean, this is like front page news every day. about the Watergate. And at this time, it was just beginning, so there was just, everyone was saying, oh, it's nothing, it's nothing, it's nothing. It didn't become anything until like May or June, and I was taking this class, during the fall semester. And Dr. Bilius, at the time when everybody was saying, oh, it's nothing, and the fact that 49 states voted unbelievably for Nixon at that time, his second term of office, the fact that so many people voted was the fact that, like, the public, I'm hearing about it, but I don't really believe anything. Dr. Bilius would tell us in class, he said, you know what? They had the election, this guy won, but this thing is not over. There are many, many more layers to this thing, to this Watergate thing, than people know. And he was the first one of significance that I really heard say something about that. So this guy knew. So why am I talking about this today? Because my thoughts come down to what's best for this country right now, today. And we have an impeachment in progress as I'm making this video. And I'm thinking to myself, should we impeach this guy? Should this guy be convicted? Is that something that's going to help heal the country? So naturally, my thoughts went back to Dr. George Athan Bilius, because I was wondering, I wonder what he would say. So just for giggles, I Googled him, and I found that he died a couple of years ago in 2018 at the age of 99. And at the time that he died, he was still working on writing new books, according to his obituary. This guy was so passionate, it was unbelievable. And the reason why I say he was a huge influence in my life is because I didn't know really what I was going to be doing, what my interests were going to be. You're a freshman and, you're 17, 18 years old, you're a freshman in college, you're very, you can be influenced very easily. And this man, taking this man's course and listening to this man and just sucking up his passion and his enthusiasm put me in the direction of being an American history major and an English major. And that was the direction that my life took. And if I had taken a different direction, who knows, how my life would be different. So this man, while he was not a mentor of mine, I mean, I'm a lowly freshman and this is Dr. Bilius. I mean, he's up there. He was one of the early idols that I had in my lifetime, and a man of great influence to me. Why? Because of his passion. Passion is contagious, and that can be a good thing, or, as we witnessed with what happened at the Capitol building, that kind of passion can also be a bad thing. Once again, the laws of the universe, they don't take sides, they don't make judgments. The law is the law is the law. Passion works this way for something good, passion works that way for something bad. It still works the same. It's like the law of gravity. Apples are always going to fall down. Keep these things in mind. Universal laws do not make judgments. The difference between being interested and being committed is a huge gap. And the thing that defines that is the degree of passion that you have. Eli, you're playing basketball right now. I played basketball when I was your age. With me, it was an unbelievable passion. A lot of my friends played ball, and every once in a while, they'd come for 3-on-3 or a 5-on-5, and we'd play. But they didn't have the same passion for the game that I had. If you really want to be good at something, if you really want to develop in something, you've got to embrace that passion. And passion isn't something that you can just take and lateral to somebody. You know, they have to embrace it. But remember, passion is very, very contagious. Very contagious. All right? And people can have, without being a mentor, somebody's passion can be a major influence on society. So keep in mind that one of the rules of success is to be committed and not just interested. And when you're committed, you have that passion and you're thinking about that subject, that singleness of purpose, all the time. And I want to salute Dr. George Athan Bilius posthumously. I just would love to know what his thoughts would be on this impeachment. My thoughts at this moment is, well, you know, do we want it? We really don't want to set a precedent, because then any outgoing president can do this and that and so on and so forth and not worry about, you know, suffering any consequences. That's on the one hand. On the other hand, I'm thinking, boy, you know, the country's divided enough right now. Do we really need to just enhance the gap between the two sides, or is it time for some healing? You know, back in the day when Nixon left office, the first thing that Gerald Ford did, who was the president that followed Nixon, was to pardon him. Why? He said, look, we need to focus on the future. If we keep focusing on Nixon, what's going to happen is we're going to be focusing on the past. I can't help but think, as much as I would like to see this guy get his just desserts for crimes that he committed, that in the long haul, is that a good thing for the country? And I'm undecided on that. But my strong point is, I really need to see that this guy does not hold public office again, because he's shown that he's either unbelievably irresponsible or just cannot envision what the bully pulpit of the United States presidency can do and incite people. In either case, that's not a guy that I want as a president. So anyway, bottom line of this particular video is the difference between being interested and committed is passion. And you know I'm passionate about this channel, Eli. And because we're never going to end a meeting on a philosophical note, let's get out there and take charge. I'm Eli's dad.